Project Veritas is a non-profit investigative journalism organization and recent recipient of an FBI raid. Forced entry by FBI agents, which we'll talk about here. This is the subject of this panel. On our panel, we have first Judge Alex Kaczynski, is the former chief judge of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where he served until entering private practice in 2017. Next, we have David Freiheit,
Phonetically, yeah.
known as Viva Frei, Fry, to many of you as a notable Canadian lawyer who also happens to run one of my favorite video law blogs, really takes these motions and makes them come to life. One of the only people I know that does that. And Ron Coleman. Ron Coleman is a partner with a law firm, Dillon Law Group, powerhouse litigation firm, blazing a trail for free speech. It should be noted that I am a client of Harmeet Dillon.
I grew up under communism. I know very well what it is like where the approved organs of the government, the press that the government either owns or approves, are treated differently, and everything else is suppressed by often brutal means. You could get, if they caught you, they would break in your house and you'll take your radio and you would not see the light of day for years. So this is really an astonishing and incredible development that they're doing this to the press here.
What we're seeing that's new is that the line has been crossed into using it against journalists. That would have been understood as a tactic that was off the table until fairly recently. And the thing that people have to realize that's terrifying is that the Southern District of New York is a private police force available for the use of major law firms for a wide variety of things. It would have been unthinkable to cross that line with respect to journalists, but remember, I don't have to tell you this, there has been a concerted effort to deny the right to call yourself a journalist to anyone who works for a brand that wasn't recognized as a journalism brand before the internet. So you and OAN and barely Fox, you're not considered to be journalists, you're considered to be something else, something less than journalists. Would they have done this even to Fox? I don't think so, because those are recognized brands in the journalism entertainment business.
And the tactic that the government and the media does with dissident media is ignore, demonize, and then brutalize in that order. They'll ignore you until you become too powerful to ignore. Then they'll demonize you, so they'll call you all the names that they call you, James. And then when that doesn't work, they'll brutalize you with the weaponized full force of the law. Going after you, and I've been following the seizure, the warrant because of a diary that was allegedly stolen.
Not by you.
It's a pretext. It's a pretext to go after brutalized dissident media after denying that they're media in the first place, and distract you with the procedure so that you can't actually do what you're doing. It's a tactic.
As a federal judge, this is a big deal. You're a chief judge, Ninth Circuit. Have you ever seen, in your tenure as a federal judge, you're appointed by Reagan, correct? So you were on the bench for decades. Have you ever seen the FBI raid journalists' homes?
Never.
D.C. Drano is a young man. He's a lawyer. He worked briefly in law before realizing that he could have a lot more fun, like David here, rather than practicing law, doing things on social media. And Rogan put up a tweet in which he questioned whether or not Joe Biden had been elected as reported, and suggested that the state of California's election security should be audited. A short time later, he was taken off Twitter. He was banned from Twitter for spreading election misinformation. The State Department of the Republic of California, the People's Republic of California, I should say, had reported his criticism, Rogan's, of election security in California as a threat to election security. So the idea that by suggesting there was a problem with election security was a threat to election security makes it very clear that what the threat was a threat to the political regime, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. It was an entirely inappropriate use of government power and of Twitter acting as an arm of the United States government.
But the description that Ron's given, this unholy alliance between government and media, as far as I understand, it's the actual literal definition for fascism. When you have the government and the media doing each other's bidding, it is fascism.
Ryan Stelter talking about under the Trump administration, there was an attempt to gag the New York Times, which uses Google as an email client, and Stelter is rightfully indignant about that.
Did Mr. Potato Head speak out in your defense?
Did who?
Mr. Potato Head?
Mr. Potato Head, no.
They only are indignant if you're embarrassing people they don't like. If you embarrass, if they embarrass people they like, they're not going to be indignant.
So,
they're going to say you have it coming.
It comes down to whether they like us or not.
Well, they like you and you like your message and who you're embarrassing.
Ron Coleman, before the internet, if the government wanted your records, you'd know. They'd come to your door, they'd take your literal notebooks, they would subpoena them, and you'd know about it. But now with this advent of the cloud, the principle here is that if your emails are housed in a cloud and the feds can go get secret warrants to obtain them.
That's assuming, James, the NSA hasn't already gotten them outside of that process entirely and bled them through channels to the Justice Department or the FBI so that they would know what to ask for and where to find it.
So how does a journalist do their job? How do they protect their secret government sources?
At great risk.
Scribble it on small pieces of paper, and if need be, swallow them.
Scribble them on pieces of paper.
Well, James, in the old country.
James, one thing, when you talk about accountability, like I don't mean to be too black-pilled. There can't be accountability in this fascistic regime where you have the media not acting as the watchdog of the government, but as the lapdog of the government. And when they're there, not scrutinizing the government, but carrying their water, and not challenging them, but amplifying them, you've got what Nancy Pelosi referred to as a wrap-up smear, but at the judicial level. You got one party doing the bidding of the other, and the other one covering up the wrongdoings of the other.